So we're going to talk about the mole, not the one that might be on your face, not the cute little animal, but the mole that we use in chemistry. Before we talk about the mole, let's talk about dozens. If you have 1 dozen pencils, I hope you guys recognize that you have 12 pencils. If you have 0.5 dozen cars, that's half a dozen. You should know that you have 6 cars. If you have 2 dozen trees, 24 trees. And if you have 4 dozen birds, 48 birds. But it could also go the other way. If I have 96 cows, I have 8 dozen cows. If I have 120 donuts, I have 10 dozen donuts. That shouldn't be anything new, but let's think of it on a chemical level. Do you think that we could count 1 dozen water molecules? Pause the videos, think about it, come up with your reasoning. Did you pause? But really, did you pause? All right. So I hope that you realize that molecules are so tiny that we cannot count out 1 dozen water molecules. They are way too small. Dozen, 12 is too small of a number. In fact, in a single drop of water, this is 1 molecule, in a single drop of water, we can contain, I don't even know how to say that number, but those are commas, not decimal points. So let's see, right here is a million, right here is a billion, and look how much more we've got in 1 single drop of water. So 12, 1 dozen, is way too small for us to count molecules or atoms or anything like that. So I found this video. Let's see if I can play a video within a video for you guys.
Mole is an animal that burrows in the ground.
Or a spot on your chin that you gotta shape around.
But there's another kind of mole that's of interest to me.
That's the kind of mole they use in chemistry.
A mole
Or have your heart.
containing 6 times 10 to the 23rd.
That's a 6 with 23 zeros at the end.
Much too big a number to comprehend.
Say you had a mole paint strip around the world. Give to each of the 5 alien grown-ups, boys and girls. There wouldn't be a single person down and out of luck, cause everybody in the world will get $1 trillion.
Or say you had a mole of paper stacked up towards the sky. Paper's awful thin, but that pile would get so high it'd reach up into outer space. In fact, I think you'd find it'd go up to the moon and back 80 billion times. A mole is a unit
Or have your heart.
containing 6 times 10 to the 23rd.
That's a 6 with 23 zeros at the end.
Much too big a number to comprehend.
Suppose a mole of marshmallows fell upon the planet over each square inch of land. So you think that you could stand in that layer would be equal mile side, and of course block out our sun. Talk equals to 5.
Well, maybe we could save ourselves if we all started eating 1 marshmallow each second, not 2, because that'd be cheating. With 5 billion people munching, how long do you think it'd take? 40 million years, and that's without a bathroom break. A mole is a unit
Or have your heart.
containing 6 times 10 to the 23rd.
That's a 6 with 23 zeros at the end.
Much too big a number to comprehend. Say you had a mole of atoms, the pile would be immense. Should I say the answer now or leave you in suspense?
Well, atoms also very small, you understand? You could hold a mole of atoms in the palm of your hand.
So shake a little sugar in the middle of your palm.
Now you don't want to spill it, so try and stay so calm.
You hardly can imagine
And barely realize
there's more atoms than sugar.
the stars up in the sky.
A mole is a unit
Or have your heart.
containing 6 times 10 to the 23rd.
That's a 6 with 23 zeros at the end.
Much too big a number to comprehend.
All right, so hope you got from that video that a mole is a number and it is huge. That's 6 with 23 zero at the ends. What it's actually equal to is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Okay, a mole is also known as Avogadro's number, named after Amadeus Avogadro. He didn't really per se discover it, but the work that he did led to the calculations of this 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd, which I won't bore you with that. So they named the mole after him, Avogadro. So a Couple things from the video. I wonder if you noticed that, if you stack a mole of papers to the moon and back, you can go, I forgot how many times, but you can hold a mole in your hand of certain atoms. So it's this huge, huge number, but atoms are so, so small that in chemistry we have to use this huge number to count how many atoms and particles and molecules that we have because they're so small. So just take a quick second. A mole is like a dozen because, think to yourself, pause the video. What I came up with, which isn't the only correct answer, it's not a correct answer necessarily what I'm looking for, but a mole is like a dozen because it represents a number. 12 is a dozen. 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd is a mole. Okay, so they're very similar, just mole is really, really, really big. Okay. Units that we use for different particles would be for an element, just the plain element, we say atom. If it's an ionic compound, we say formula unit. And if it's a covalent compound, we say molecules. Okay. For example, if we have 1 mole of carbon, we have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of carbon. If we have 1 mole of table salt, sodium chloride, then I have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd formula units of sodium chloride. Notice that the number is the same, and that's because they're both 1 mole. It's just like saying 1 dozen, but in this case it's mole. If we had a mole of water, it would be 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd molecules of water. Now, if you're looking at this number and you're like, you know what, I just don't get what it means, then I want you to check out some of the scientific notation videos and practice problems. If you're like, I remember scientific notation, just take out the practice problems just to make sure you remember, and if you're like good with them, then move on, and then you'll be able to start doing some mole to particle calculation. How many atoms are there in 2 moles of sulfur? How many moles are there in 3.4 times 10 to the 21st atoms? These are going to be the types of questions you'll have to be able to answer. Good luck.